The crash. The night sky above the planet Tarith was a tapestry of stars, twinkling like diamonds scattered across velvet. For Mark Jenkins, the pilot of the exploratory ship Horizon, space was more than just a frontier, it was a second home. He had spent years navigating the depths of the universe, unraveling its mysteries and seeking new worlds. Yet, as he sat at the helm of his ship, he could never have imagined how quickly things could change. Mayday, Mayday. This is Mark Jenkins. My ship is damaged. Life support failing. Can anyone hear me? His voice trembled slightly, betraying his iron resolve. The only response was the unrelenting hiss of static, a cruel reminder of his isolation. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he fought to regain control, yanking the controls with desperate determination. The ship lurched violently as it began to enter the atmosphere, the hull groaning under the strain. The thrusters sputtered, gasping for power, while Mark's heart raced in time with the erratic tremors shaking the cockpit. He cursed under his breath, gripping the controls harder as the ground rushed up to meet him, a terrifying blur of color and light. "Damn it," he muttered. The horizon shook violently, pieces of metal creaking ominously as the friction against the planet's thick atmosphere heated the hull to unbearable temperatures. In that moment, he felt the weight of every choice he had ever made, the missions he had accepted, the dangers he had courted. Would this be his final flight? Then came the crash. The impact was earth-shattering, a massive jolt that reverberated through his entire being. Everything went black. When Mark awoke, the world around him was shrouded in smoke and disarray. He groaned, a sharp pain stabbing through his ribs as he attempted to move. The wreckage of his ship pinned him down, shards of metal and broken equipment strewn across the cockpit like the remnants of a nightmare. Flames flickered at the edges, casting eerie shadows that danced along the walls. Panic surged within him as he struggled to breathe, each inhale filled with choking smoke. Still alive, he whispered through clenched teeth, feeling a surge of determination amid the chaos. He fought against the debris, pushing and wriggling until, finally, he was able to free himself. Just as he thought he was safe, a shadow passed over the cockpit, and Mark's blood ran cold. He blinked, unsure if he was hallucinating from the crash or if something was truly there. As his eyes adjusted to the dim light, he saw them, 3 massive ships hovering in the sky, their forms sleek and ominous against the backdrop of stars. A bright beam of light descended from one of the vessels, enveloping his broken spacecraft. Mark felt a strange sensation, a weightlessness that defied the laws of physics. Before he could comprehend what was happening, he was being pulled upward, the debris of his ship falling away as he was lifted into the belly of the alien craft. Disoriented and gasping for breath, Mark was released onto a cold, metallic floor. He blinked, trying to make sense of his surroundings. The room was sterile, illuminated by an otherworldly glow that seemed to pulse in time with his heartbeat. Above him stood 3 figures, humanoid yet distinctly alien. Their skin shimmered in hues of deep blue, and their eyes glowed with a faint silver light, sharp and intelligent. These were not mere aliens, they were warriors. One stepped forward, a woman with an imposing presence. Her armor was sleek and form-fitting, adorned with intricate symbols that Mark couldn't decipher. As she studied him, her eyes bore into him with an intensity that made his heart race. "You are human," she said, her voice both harsh and musical, each word resonating with an ancient power. "Yeah, human and stranded," Mark replied, his voice hoarse. "Thanks for the rescue, I guess." The woman regarded him for a moment, then nodded to the others. They swiftly lifted him to his feet, ignoring his protests. "You are not rescued," she said sharply, a note of finality in her tone. "Not yet." Before he could respond, they dragged him through the corridors of the alien ship, the air humming with energy as they moved deeper into the heart of the vessel. Mark was acutely aware of the intricate designs etched into the walls, patterns that seemed to tell stories of a civilization far older than humanity. They arrived at an imposing set of doors. The metal hissed and slid apart, revealing a vast chamber bathed in a soft blue glow. At the center of the room stood a figure tall and regal, her blue skin radiating with a faint luminescence. Long, flowing black hair cascaded down her shoulders, framing a striking face that exuded both power and elegance. Her eyes, bright and intense, locked onto Mark with an unyielding gaze. This had to be Commander Zara. One of the warriors spoke, bowing slightly as they presented Mark. "We found him at the crash site. He is human." Zara's lips curled into a faint smile, but it was not one of warmth. It was the smile of someone who saw a challenge, and perhaps something more. "Human," she said, her voice low and commanding. "Do you know what it means to be saved by the DRX?" Mark shook his head, his heart racing as her presence overwhelmed him. There was something magnetic about her, a blend of danger and allure that sent shivers down his spine. "No," he replied, his voice steadier than he felt. "What does it mean?" "You owe a tribute," Zara continued, her tone smooth yet sharp. "We do not say for free. The tribute I demand is satisfaction." Mark furrowed his brow, confusion washing over him. "Satisfaction?" he asked, a mixture of intrigue and trepidation coursing through him. Zara took a step closer, her eyes never leaving his. "Yes, human. To prove your worth, you must satisfy me emotionally, physically, and mentally." His pulse quickened. Whatever this alien leader wanted from him, it was more than he could have imagined. Mark was left alone with Zara as the doors of the chamber sealed shut behind him. Her luminous blue eyes bore into him, presenting an unspoken challenge. There was no misunderstanding what she meant. Satisfaction, an alien concept that implied something far deeper than mere physicality, was expected of him, and in this moment, his survival depended on it. Zara moved closer, her commanding presence radiating through the room. The soft glow illuminated her features, and Mark felt the sheer power she exuded. It wasn't just her strength or her beauty that drew him in. It was the intensity of her gaze, the silent demand for something far beyond a simple transaction. "I see uncertainty in you, human," Zara spoke, her voice a low purr as she circled him like a predator assessing her prey. "But there is no room for hesitation among my people. If you wish to prove your worth, you will embrace this test with everything you are. It is not just your body I seek to test, but your mind, your will." Mark's heart raced, but he wasn't one to back down from a challenge, even one as alien and unpredictable as this. His mind flashed back to the crash, the desperation of those final moments when he thought all was lost. Now, standing here with this enigmatic and powerful leader, he understood the stakes were higher than ever. "I'm not afraid," Mark said, his voice steady despite the storm brewing inside him. "I'll pass whatever test you throw at me." Zara's lips curved into a knowing smile, one that sent a thrill through him. "We shall see," she replied, stepping closer. Her hand brushed lightly against his chest, a touch sending a shiver through him. There was an energy between them, a tension that felt both dangerous and exhilarating. "In DRX culture, strength is not just physical," she explained, her words flowing with a strange mix of intensity and elegance. "It is found in passion, in the ability to connect on a level that transcends mere desire. We do not approach intimacy as you humans do. It is a test of dominance, of emotional control, of vulnerability. Only those who can balance all three are worthy of leading or surviving." Mark felt the weight of her words settle over him. This was not just a test of his physical prowess, but a challenge to his very essence. Would he rise to meet it? Would he find the strength within himself to navigate the unknown territory of alien customs and expectations? In that moment, standing before Commander Zara, he realized that this was more than a simple rescue. It was a chance to redefine his existence among the stars. With the weight of her gaze upon him, Mark prepared himself for the journey ahead, ready to embrace whatever challenges lay in store. Little did he know, the path to satisfying this alien leader would take him beyond the limits of his understanding, testing not just his physical endurance, but the depths of his very soul. The test begins. Zora's gaze bore into Mark like a laser, slicing through the lingering doubts that clouded his mind. The weight of her expectations pressed down upon him, igniting an adrenaline-fueled clarity. He had faced dangers in the depths of space, but nothing compared to this moment, a test of emotional and physical prowess at the hands of an alien leader. "Before you begin, know this," Zora continued, her voice calm yet imbued with an undercurrent of authority. "The Orcs believe that true connection is forged through understanding and vulnerability. Each challenge will push you to your limits and expose your weaknesses. You will learn not only about yourself, but also about the power dynamics that exist between us." Mark nodded, swallowing hard. The atmosphere hummed with tension, a blend of anticipation and uncertainty that charged the air. Zora stepped back, her movements fluid and purposeful, as she gestured to a circle of shimmering light that had materialized on the floor between them. "This is the circle of truth," she explained. "Within it, you will confront your deepest fears and desires. You will share your truths with me, and in return, I will reveal mine. Only through this exchange can we determine if you possess the strength to satisfy our leader." Mark took a deep breath, steeling himself. The concept was foreign yet tantalizing, a blend of vulnerability and challenge that he found strangely compelling. "What do you want to know?" he asked, stepping into the circle, feeling the warm energy radiating beneath his feet. Zora's eyes narrowed, assessing him with a predatory gaze. "Tell me about your greatest fear, human. What haunts your dreams and keeps you awake at night?" The question struck him like a physical blow. Mark hesitated, memories flooding his mind, images of his past failures, the lives he couldn't save, the moments where he felt utterly powerless. "I fear being alone," he admitted finally, the words slipping from his lips before he could rein them in. "Out there in space, it's easy to feel isolated. The silence can be deafening." Zora's expression softened, a flicker of understanding crossing her features. "Isolation is a potent adversary. It makes one vulnerable, and that vulnerability can be exploited." She stepped closer, her presence overwhelming yet strangely comforting. "But do not mistake isolation for weakness. It can be a source of strength, a time to reflect and grow." Mark nodded, absorbing her words. He could see the wisdom behind them, the understanding that existed beyond the confines of his own experiences. "What about you?" he asked, the question tumbling out before he could consider the implications. "What do you fear?" Zora paused, her gaze unwavering. "I fear complacency. In my position, the desire for power can easily blind one to the needs of the people. I must never forget that leadership requires empathy and sacrifice." The air between them thickened, charged with the weight of their shared vulnerabilities. Mark felt a shift in the atmosphere, as if the circle of truth was becoming a bridge connecting their disparate worlds. Zora regarded him intently, her expression serious. "Now," she said, "let us explore your desires. What is it that you truly seek, beyond survival?" Mark's heart raced at the intensity of her inquiry. He thought of his life before the crash, his insatiable curiosity, the quest for knowledge, and the yearning for connection. "I want to explore," he replied, his voice gaining strength. "I want to understand the universe and find meaningful connections with others. To feel like I belong, not just as a wanderer, but as a part of something greater." Zora studied him, her expression inscrutable. "A noble desire. But tell me, what if that belonging comes with a cost? Would you sacrifice part of yourself to belong to something bigger?" The question struck a chord deep within Mark. He thought about the sacrifices he had made in the past, friends lost, family abandoned for the call of exploration. "I've sacrificed before," he said, his voice steady. "But I don't want to lose my identity in the process. Belonging should enhance who you are, not diminish it." Zora nodded, her eyes glimmering with approval. "You possess the strength to challenge the status quo, to fight for your identity while still seeking connection. This is a valuable trait among the DRX." She stepped back, her presence like a magnetic force that drew him in and held him captive. "Now we will begin the second phase of your test," Zara declared, her voice sharp and commanding. "You must demonstrate your physical prowess. In the arena beyond this chamber, you will face one of our warriors. Defeat him, and you'll have proven your strength. But be warned, it will not be easy." Mark felt a surge of adrenaline. He had fought in space before, navigated zero-gravity skirmishes, and evaded the clutches of cosmic threats. This was different. This was a tangible, raw confrontation that would test not just his physical abilities, but his mental fortitude as well. "Lead the way," he said, determination flooding his voice. Zara turned, leading him through the metallic corridors of the ship. Each step reverberated with purpose as they moved toward the arena. The walls glimmered with intricate patterns, and Mark could feel the anticipation building with each passing moment. He was stepping into an alien world, where the rules were different and survival hinged on his ability to adapt. As they entered the arena, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. The expansive space was circular, surrounded by tiered seating filled with Orcs warriors. The air was electric with excitement, their voices low and rumbling as they prepared for the spectacle. Mark stood at one end of the arena, the ground beneath him solid and unyielding. Opposite him, a massive figure emerged from the shadows, a warrior adorned in ornate armor, his muscular frame imposing and powerful. He wore a fierce expression, his eyes narrowing as they locked onto Mark. "Prepare yourself, human," Zara announced, her voice echoing through the arena. "This is Karo, one of our finest warriors. To earn your place among us, you must prove your strength against him." Karo stepped forward, a predator ready to strike. Mark felt a jolt of adrenaline surge through him, fueling his resolve. He took a deep breath, steadying himself as he shifted into a fighting stance. The warrior before him radiated confidence and skill, but Mark wasn't about to back down. "Let's do this," Mark declared, his voice resolute. As the signal sounded, Karo lunged forward with surprising speed, his fist swinging in a powerful arc aimed directly at Mark's head. Instinctively, Mark ducked and rolled, narrowly avoiding the blow. The ground trembled beneath him as Karo's fist connected with the arena floor, leaving a dent where he had aimed. Mark sprang back to his feet, adrenaline pumping through his veins. He needed to think strategically. Brute force wouldn't be enough against a warrior of Karo's caliber. He circled the arena, keeping a close eye on his opponent, watching for any signs of weakness. Karo charged again, but this time Mark anticipated the movement. As Karo's fist came barreling toward him, Mark sidestepped and delivered a swift kick to Karo's knee. The warrior stumbled slightly, but his experience shone through as he quickly regained his balance. "Impressive," Zara called out from the sidelines, her voice ringing with approval. "But you must do more than evade. Engage him." Mark's heart raced as he faced Karo again, aware that the warrior was only testing him, gauging his reactions. He needed to press the advantage. Summoning his courage, he charged forward, throwing a series of jabs toward Karo's midsection. Karo blocked the first two punches but underestimated Mark's speed. With a quick feint to the left, Mark landed a solid blow to Karo's side, causing the warrior to grunt in surprise. Encouraged by the small victory, Mark pushed forward, unleashing a flurry of strikes aimed at wearing Karo down. But Karo wasn't easily defeated. With a swift move, he grabbed Mark's arm, twisting it and pulling him off balance. Mark fell to the ground, feeling the impact resonate through him, but he rolled quickly, regaining his footing just in time to avoid another powerful strike. "Fight like you mean it, human," Karo taunted, a glimmer of respect in his eyes. Mark could feel the warrior's confidence and strength radiating from him, fueling his own determination. He needed to tap into that drive to prove himself not just to Karo, but to Zara and the entire DRX. He circled again, searching for openings, his mind racing. Then he spotted it. Karo's footwork, while strong, had a predictable pattern. Mark feigned a leftward move, causing Karo to anticipate a strike from that side. Instead, Mark pivoted, launching a powerful right hook that connected with Karo's jaw, sending the warrior staggering back. The arena erupted in cheers, the Orcs warriors rallying behind the spectacle. Zora's voice cut through the noise, urging Mark on. "You have strength, human. Use it." Mark felt a surge of energy course through him, igniting a fire in his chest. He pressed the attack, advancing on Karo, who was still recovering from the hit. He unleashed a series of swift, precise punches, focusing on Karo's torso and midsection, using his agility to dodge the warrior's counterattacks. Karo retaliated with a low sweep aimed at Mark's legs, but Mark jumped over it, flipping backward to land on his feet with a flourish. The cheers from the Orcs warriors grew louder, urging him on, igniting the competitive spirit within him. As the fight continued, both combatants became aware of their growing exhaustion. Karo's strikes began to lose some of their power, while Mark felt the burn in his muscles from the continuous movement. But he pushed through, determined to outlast the warrior. With one final surge of energy, Mark feigned another left jab, but this time he used the momentum to spin, driving his elbow into Karo's ribs. The warrior staggered, gasping for breath as he tried to regain his footing. Seizing the moment, Mark launched himself forward, landing a decisive strike to Karo's jaw. Time seemed to slow as Karo's feet left the ground, and he crashed onto the arena floor, stunned. The arena fell silent, the Orcs warriors staring in disbelief. Zora's expression shifted from one of anticipation to pride, a smile breaking through her usually stoic demeanor. Mark stood over Karo, panting heavily, his heart racing as he processed what had just happened. He had done it. He had faced the warrior and emerged victorious. Zora stepped forward, a gleam in her eye. "You have proven yourself human. You possess strength and tenacity, and for that, you have earned a place among us." As the cheers erupted once more, Mark felt a mix of relief and exhilaration wash over him. He had faced his fears and emerged stronger, earning respect from an alien race that had once viewed him as an outsider. But this was just the beginning of his journey. He had entered a world of challenges, alliances, and perhaps a deeper understanding of what it meant to connect across the vast chasm of difference. With a nod of gratitude towards Zora and Karo, who was now getting back to his feet, Mark realized he was no longer merely a human crash-landed on an alien world. He was part of something larger, a narrative filled with complexity, challenges, and newfound friendships. The path ahead remained uncertain, but for the first time since his crash, he felt a flicker of hope. The journey to understanding the Orcs had truly begun. Bonds forged in fire. As the cheers of the Orcs warriors echoed around him, Mark felt a swell of pride intermingled with disbelief. He had faced Karo, a warrior of renown, and emerged not only alive but victorious. The adrenaline coursed through his veins, but as the reality of the moment settled in, he realized that this was just the beginning. Zora stepped closer, her eyes sparkling with a mix of approval and intrigue. "Your victory today is not just a testament to your strength, but also to your spirit," she said, her voice resonating with a warmth that contrasted with her earlier demeanor. "But know that strength alone is not enough to bridge the divide between our worlds. It is your heart, your capacity for empathy and understanding, that will truly matter." Mark nodded, absorbing her words. The thrill of the fight was still fresh in his mind, but her reminder grounded him. He had won the battle, but the war of hearts and minds lay ahead. Zara gestured for him to follow her, and as they left the arena, the energy shifted. The roaring cheers of the warriors faded, replaced by a sullen respect for the moment that had just transpired. Karo, who was now standing and rubbing his jaw with a sheepish grin, caught Mark's eye. "Impressive footwork," Karo said, his voice booming yet friendly. "Few can claim to have bested me in the arena. You are not just a human, you are a formidable opponent. Perhaps we can train together." Mark smiled, feeling the camaraderie blooming. "I'd like that," he replied. I have a lot to learn about your ways, and it seems like you're someone I can learn from. As they walked deeper into the ship, Zara led him through a series of intricate hallways adorned with glowing symbols and murals depicting Orcs' history. The artwork told stories of triumph, sacrifice, and unity, and Mark couldn't help but marvel at the rich culture surrounding him. Every mural represents a story, Zara explained, her voice softening as they paused in front of one particularly vivid depiction. This one illustrates the founding of our alliance. We were once a fractured society, divided by power struggles and ancient feuds. It was through moments like your battle today that we learned the value of unity and respect for one another. Mark studied the artwork, feeling its weight. It's inspiring to see how your people overcame such challenges, he mused. It seems we share that in common. Humans have faced their own struggles, learning to unite across divides. Exactly, Zara replied, her expression thoughtful. Your victory today is a reminder that strength is not just physical. It also lies in the ability to connect with others, to find common ground even in the face of adversity. As they continued their tour, Zara revealed more about Orcs society, its values, and the complexities of their politics. Each word she spoke added depth to Mark's understanding, and he found himself captivated not just by the information, but by her passion for her people. Eventually, they arrived at a spacious chamber, the heart of the Orcs command center. Holographic displays filled the room, showcasing maps of star systems, energy readings, and data streams that flickered with life. Mark was taken aback by the level of sophistication in their technology. This is where we strategize and plan for the future, Zara explained, motioning for him to take a seat at the central console. But it is also where we make crucial decisions about alliances and interactions with other species. We need leaders who can navigate the complexities of diplomacy and warfare. Mark leaned forward, intrigued. What role do you see for me in all of this? I'm just one person from a completely different world. Zara smiled knowingly. You underestimate your value. Your perspective as a human could provide insights we have never considered. More importantly, you have proven that you are willing to fight for what you believe in. We need individuals who can inspire others and create alliances beyond mere words. As she spoke, Mark felt a sense of purpose beginning to unfold within him. It was one thing to survive. It was another to thrive and contribute. So, what comes next? He asked, excitement creeping into his voice. Zara's expression grew serious. You will undergo further training, both physically and mentally. We will push your limits, not just to enhance your skills, but to forge your understanding of our ways. This will involve cultural immersion, combat training, and most importantly, diplomacy exercises. Sounds intense, Mark chuckled, imagining himself fumbling through a diplomatic meeting. I'm up for the challenge. Just then, the chamber doors slid open, revealing a group of Orcs warriors, their faces reflecting a mix of respect and curiosity. They had come to witness the newcomer who had challenged their champion. Zara gestured for Mark to join her in welcoming them. Everyone, gather around, she commanded, her voice carrying authority. This is Mark, a human who has shown remarkable courage in the arena today. We will be working together to build a stronger alliance between our worlds. The warriors looked Mark up and down, some with skepticism, others with admiration. Zara continued, You will be crucial to our future endeavors. It is time for you to engage with our people, to share stories, and to learn from one another. Who wishes to join him in training? A murmur of excitement spread through the crowd. Kara stepped forward, nodding in agreement. I will train with him. He has the heart of a warrior. Others followed suit, eager to form connections and build camaraderie with Mark. As the group began to assemble, Mark felt a rush of warmth. This was not just about proving himself anymore. It was about forging relationships, about understanding and empathy that transcended the boundaries of their worlds. As they prepared to embark on their training, Zara gathered everyone's attention once more. In the days to come, we will challenge Mark, but we will also challenge ourselves. We must learn from him as he learns from us. The warriors nodded, understanding the importance of this exchange. They began to share stories of their own trials and triumphs, weaving tales that intertwined with Mark's own experiences. He listened intently, absorbing their lessons and insights, finding echoes of his own struggles reflected in their stories. Days turned into weeks, each filled with rigorous training and immersive cultural exchanges. Mark learned to navigate the complexities of DRX combat techniques, honing his skills in a way that challenged his previous notions of fighting. He also engaged in diplomatic simulations, where he practiced negotiations and conflict resolution with Zara as his guide. During one particularly challenging session, Mark found himself in a mock diplomatic meeting with several DRX leaders. The topic was delicate: a potential alliance with a neighboring species known for their aggressive tendencies. Mark felt the weight of the situation pressing down on him. "Remember," Zara whispered to him before they began, "listen as much as you speak. Your humanity offers a unique perspective on empathy." As the meeting commenced, Mark struggled at first, but he remembered Zara's words. He focused on the concerns expressed by the other leaders, acknowledging their fears while weaving in his thoughts on cooperation and understanding. Slowly, he began to find his footing, drawing on his own experiences with conflict resolution back on Earth. After the simulation concluded, Zara looked at him with pride. "You've made tremendous progress. You not only navigated a tricky situation, but also inspired others to see beyond their fears." Mark beamed, the sense of accomplishment flooding through him. Each challenge, whether physical or mental, had brought him closer to understanding the DRS and what it meant to form bonds across the vast chasm of their differences. Amidst the training, Mark formed close friendships with Karo and others in the warrior faction. They would often spar together, trading techniques and jokes, each training session laced with camaraderie. As they laughed and fought, Mark realized how much he had grown attached to them. In the evenings, Zara often invited Mark to join her for discussions over traditional DRX meals, showcasing their culinary traditions. They would share stories under the soft glow of bioluminescent plants that adorned the dining hall, weaving a tapestry of shared experiences and cultural exchange. "I never imagined I would find a second home among the stars," Mark confessed one evening, the warmth of their camaraderie enveloping him. "You've all shown me that despite our differences, we can come together to forge a brighter future." Zara smiled, her expression a blend of admiration and hope. "The universe is vast, Mark, but it is connections like these that remind us of our shared humanity." But amidst this newfound camaraderie and growth, a shadow loomed. Tensions were rising within the DRX due to an impending confrontation with a faction of their own that sought to break the fragile alliances they had formed. Whispers of dissent filled the air, and Mark could feel the undercurrents of unrest swirling around them. One evening, while gathering for training, Karo approached Mark with a grave expression. "There are rumblings of dissent among the warriors. Some believe we should sever ties with humanity, fearing we will weaken our own society." Mark felt a chill run down his spine. But why? We're building something meaningful here. Karo nodded, his brow furrowed with concern. "Some do not see it that way. They fear that relying on outsiders will make us vulnerable. There are talks of a challenge, one that could determine the fate of our alliance." Mark swallowed hard, realizing the implications. What kind of challenge? "A trial of loyalty and strength, where you would have to defend your right to be among us," Karo explained, his voice low. "If you lose, it may result in us severing ties with your kind. The stakes are high." Mark's heart raced. The exhilaration of his earlier victories was quickly overshadowed by the weight of this new responsibility. He had fought to earn his place among the DRX, but now he would have to fight for their future. "I'll face this challenge," he declared, determination flooding his veins. "If I have to prove my loyalty to you all, I'll do whatever it takes. We've come too far to let fear tear us apart." Karo clasped Mark's shoulder firmly, a gesture of solidarity. "We will stand together. You are not alone in this fight. We will train harder, prepare you for what lies ahead." As they moved forward, Mark felt a renewed sense of purpose. He wasn't just fighting for himself anymore. He was fighting for the bonds he had forged, for the understanding they had cultivated, and for the future he envisioned with the DRX. In the days leading up to the challenge, Mark trained relentlessly, pushing himself beyond his limits. The camaraderie he had built with Karo and the other warriors solidified into an unbreakable bond, each sparring session filled with encouragement and shared resolve. And as the day of the challenge approached, Mark stood at the precipice of a decision that would not only determine his fate, but also the fate of the fragile alliance he had come to cherish. The time for words and lessons was fading. Now, it was time for action. The heart of the DRX echoed with the call for unity, and Mark was ready to respond. The challenge ahead would test not just his physical prowess, but also the strength of the connections he had built in this extraordinary world. He was no longer just a human. He was a bridge between two worlds, ready to fight for a future where understanding could prevail over fear. The trial of unity, the day of the challenge dawned with a heavy sense of anticipation. Mark stood on the edge of the arena, the air thick with tension as he surveyed the gathered crowd. The DRX warriors filled the stands, their faces a blend of hope, skepticism, and curiosity. Above them, the vast expanse of the cosmos shimmered with stars, a stark reminder of the infinite possibilities and the burdens of expectation. The arena was a marvel of DRX architecture, an amphitheater carved from shimmering stone that glowed faintly in the early light. The central platform was adorned with intricate symbols that told the story of their society, a narrative of struggle and triumph, of battles won and lost. As Mark stepped into the arena, he felt the weight of that history pressing down on him. Zara approached him, her expression serious but supportive. "This challenge is not just about strength, Mark. It is a test of character, a reflection of your journey with us. Remember what we've built together. You are more than just an outsider, you are part of our community." Mark nodded, her words bolstering his resolve. "I understand. I won't let fear divide us. I'll fight for our unity." As the crowd quieted, the announcer, a formidable warrior with a deep voice that resonated through the arena, stepped forward. "Today, we gather to witness a trial that will determine the future of our alliance. Mark, the human who has fought for our respect, will face Drek, a seasoned champion who embodies the strength of our people. This trial will test both physical prowess and the bonds we have forged." Drek stepped into the arena, his stature imposing, muscles rippling beneath his gleaming armor. He radiated an aura of confidence, his eyes glinting with a mixture of challenge and respect. Mark couldn't help but feel the intensity of the moment. This was more than a fight, it was a statement. The announcer continued, "The rules are simple. The challenge consists of 3 stages. Each stage will test different aspects of combat, strategy, and unity. The first stage begins now, an exhibition of combat skills. May the best warrior prevail." The crowd erupted into cheers, their voices a wave of energy that surged through Mark. As he squared off against Drek, the weight of his training surged within him, memories of Zora's teachings and Karo's support flooding his mind. He would not fight this battle alone. The bell rang, signaling the start. Drek lunged forward, quick and agile, his strikes precise and powerful. Mark felt the rush of adrenaline propel him into action. He dodged, ducked, and parried, his movements a blend of instinct and practice. The arena floor was a dance of power and skill, the energy crackling between them as they clashed. As the fight continued, Mark found himself adapting to Drek's fighting style, mirroring his movements while injecting his unique approach. He remembered Zara's advice: engage your opponent, but also learn from them. Every strike was a lesson, every block an opportunity to understand his rival better. "Good. Stay light on your feet," Zara shouted from the sidelines, her voice cutting through the tension. Encouraged, Mark pivoted, catching Drek off guard with a swift kick that sent him reeling. The crowd gasped, their excitement palpable. "Impressive." Drek grinned, shaking off the hit. But let's see if you can handle this." He launched a flurry of blows, each one more aggressive than the last. Mark focused on his breathing, grounding himself as he began to anticipate Drek's movements. Time blurred as they exchanged blows, the energy of the crowd swelling and receding with each action. Mark felt a fire igniting within him, a blend of determination and resilience. This was more than a test of skill. It was a reflection of everything he had learned, the friendships he had forged, and the alliance they were building. In a pivotal moment, Mark executed a daring maneuver, flipping over Drek and landing deftly behind him. He struck with precision, and the crowd erupted in applause. The first stage ended in a draw, both warriors panting, exchanging nods of respect. The announcer raised his voice. "Stage 1 is complete. Now, we move to Stage 2, a test of strategy. This will take place in the simulation chamber, where our warriors must navigate a series of obstacles and make critical decisions. The focus will be on teamwork and adaptability." Mark and Drek exchanged glances, a silent agreement passing between them. They were competitors, but they were also part of something larger, something that demanded cooperation and respect. Inside the simulation chamber, holographic projections filled the space, creating an intricate battlefield with terrain ranging from dense forests to treacherous cliffs. The rules were clear. They would face challenges that tested their strategic minds while requiring collaboration. "Listen closely," the announcer instructed as the simulation began. "You will face dilemmas that will force you to work together. Remember, this trial is not just about defeating your opponent, it's about demonstrating your ability to unite." The simulation commenced with an urgent alarm, signaling an impending threat. Mark and Drek quickly assessed their surroundings, spotting enemy drones advancing toward them. They immediately fell into a rhythm, that earlier rivalry transforming into a partnership born of necessity. "Take the high ground," Mark shouted, sprinting toward a nearby cliff. Drek followed closely, and they found themselves perched above the approaching drones. From their vantage point, they strategized, exchanging ideas on how to outmaneuver the adversaries. They launched coordinated attacks, Mark providing covering fire while Drek executed precise strikes. Their synergy blossomed as they learned to communicate effectively, adapting to each other's strengths. Mark found himself increasingly impressed by Drek's tactical thinking. The Orcs warrior had an innate ability to read the battlefield and predict movements. "Let's split up," Drek suggested. "I'll draw their attention while you flank from the left. It's risky, but it could give us the edge." Mark hesitated, but the intensity in Drek's eyes encouraged him. "All right, let's do it." They executed their plan flawlessly, Mark weaving through the chaos and striking at the heart of the enemy drones. As they defeated the simulation, the room echoed with cheers. They had triumphed, not only as individuals but as a unified force, their bonds strengthening with each challenge. Emerging from the simulation chamber, Mark and Drek shared a victorious grin, their earlier competition having transformed into mutual respect. But the final stage loomed ahead, one that would test the very fabric of their alliance. The announcer's voice boomed through the arena. "We now enter Stage 3, the trial of unity. Both Mark and Drek will face a series of questions posed by the Council of Elders. Your responses will determine the fate of this alliance. Will you show understanding and empathy, or will old prejudices resurface?" The atmosphere shifted, seriousness hanging in the air. Mark felt the weight of the Council's expectations pressing down on him. He took a deep breath, knowing that this was his moment to prove that he was more than just a warrior. He was an ambassador of unity. As they stood before the Council, a group of dignified DRS elders, each radiating wisdom and authority, Mark felt a rush of emotions. They would scrutinize his words, weighing his understanding of their culture and his commitment to the alliance. "Mark," one elder began, his voice deep and measured, "you have fought valiantly in the arena and proven your strength. But strength alone does not bind our worlds together. What do you believe is the key to our alliance?" Mark's heart raced, but he steadied himself, recalling the lessons he had learned from Zara Caro and his experiences in the DRX community. The key to our alliance is understanding and mutual respect. We must recognize that while our worlds may be different, our struggles and aspirations are often the same. We all seek connection, acceptance, and a better future. The council exchanged glances, nodding thoughtfully. Encouraged, Mark continued, "My time with your people has shown me that our strength lies not just in our individual abilities, but in our ability to stand together. Together, we can face challenges that neither of our worlds could conquer alone." Another elder leaned forward. "But what are the divisions within your own kind? How can you assure us that humanity will not turn against us when faced with adversity?" Mark swallowed hard, knowing this was a pivotal moment. "I cannot speak for all humans, but I can share my experience. I have witnessed division and conflict, but I have also seen the power of empathy. It is through understanding and dialogue that we can bridge those divides. I stand here not just as a warrior, but as a bridge between our worlds. I will fight for unity, not just in the arena, but in the hearts of our people." The elders listened intently, their expressions unreadable. Drek stepped forward. "I have fought alongside Mark, and I have seen his heart. He is not just an outsider. He embodies the spirit of unity we seek. I believe that our worlds can thrive together." The council murmured among themselves, the air thick with tension. Finally, the lead elder raised a hand for silence. "You have shown strength in combat, strategy in the simulation, and wisdom in your words. We must now decide the future of this alliance." Mark held his breath, the weight of their decision hanging in the balance. He glanced at Drek, who nodded encouragingly, and at Zara, who stood behind him with a proud smile. The lead elder spoke again. "We choose to honor this bond forged in understanding. Mark, you are no longer just an outsider. You are one of us. We welcome you as a true ally to the DRS, and we will stand united in the face of challenges ahead." Cheers erupted from the crowd, a wave of relief and joy washing over Mark. He felt the surge of acceptance and belonging, the realization that he had not only proven himself, but had also forged a path for future cooperation. As Mark embraced Drek, Zara, and the others, he understood that this was just the beginning. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, united in their quest for a brighter future. The bonds they had forged were unbreakable, and as they stood together, Mark knew that he was no longer just a warrior. He was a beacon of hope for both worlds. Shadows of doubt. The celebration in the arena echoed long into the night, the atmosphere alive with jubilant cheers and the music of DRX festivities. Colorful banners fluttered in the gentle breeze, illuminating the night sky with hues of violet, blue, and gold. Mark felt a rush of exhilaration as he reveled in the warmth of acceptance and the joy of victory, a stark contrast to the uncertainty that had once defined his place among the DRX. "Tonight, we honor unity," declared Zara, raising her cup high, her eyes sparkling with pride. The crowd responded with an uproar, their voices blending into a symphony of hope. Mark stood alongside Drek and Zara, embracing the camaraderie and shared purpose that had blossomed between them. But as he looked around, he couldn't shake a lingering feeling deep within him. Beneath the surface of celebration, a shadow of doubt loomed, a whisper of uncertainty that threatened to disrupt the harmony they had fought so hard to achieve. "Mark." Drek's voice broke through his thoughts. "You've earned our respect, but the real test lies ahead. We may have faced one challenge, but the issues that divide our worlds are far from resolved." "I know," Mark replied, his voice laced with sincerity. "This is just the beginning. I want to help bridge those gaps, to create understanding where there has been none." Zara placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "We have much work to do, but for tonight, let us celebrate this victory and the bonds we forged." As the festivities continued, Mark felt a stirring in his chest, a determination to make a difference. He engaged with the DRS warriors, sharing stories and laughter, embracing the culture and learning more about the people he had fought alongside. Yet, amidst the merriment, an unsettling thought nagged at him. How long would this unity last? Could it withstand the scrutiny of those who were still skeptical of his presence? The night unfolded like a beautiful tapestry, each thread woven with the stories of those present. As Mark laughed and danced, he noticed a small group lingering at the edge of the festivities. They stood apart, their faces shadowed and serious, their eyes betraying a mix of distrust and resentment. One of them, a tall warrior with a stern gaze, caught Mark's attention. He seemed to be the leader of this faction, his expression hardened as he observed the celebration from afar. The flicker of unease in his eyes spoke volumes, revealing a lingering doubt that hung over Mark's acceptance. "Who are they?" Mark asked Drek, nodding subtly toward the group. Drek's expression darkened. "They are the Sentinels, a faction dedicated to preserving our traditions and maintaining our sovereignty. They have always been skeptical of outsiders, especially humans. Their leader Varric has a reputation for being fiercely protective of our way of life." "Do they pose a threat?" Mark inquired, concern threading through his voice. "Threat is perhaps too strong a word," Drek replied, crossing his arms. "But their skepticism can manifest in actions that challenge our progress. If they see you as a symbol of compromise, they may resist what we are trying to build together." As the evening progressed, Mark felt the weight of Varric's gaze upon him, a silent challenge that underscored the celebration's joy. Determined not to let doubt fester, Mark resolved to approach Varric and engage him in conversation. "Zara, Drek, I need to speak with Varric," Mark said, his voice steady. "I want to understand his concerns and show him that I'm here for a reason." "Be careful," Drek cautioned, his brow furrowed. "Varric is not easily swayed. His beliefs run deep." "I'll tread carefully," Mark assured him, steeling himself for the encounter. He made his way toward the group, the sounds of laughter and music fading into the background. As he approached, Varric and his companions regarded him with suspicion, their expressions unreadable. "Varric," Mark began, his tone respectful, "I wanted to introduce myself and discuss your concerns. I know there are many who question my presence here." Varric's eyes narrowed, and he stepped forward, his imposing figure radiating authority. "And what do you expect to gain from this? You, a human who wields the power of words but lacks our understanding." Mark took a deep breath, holding Varric's gaze. "I seek understanding, not to impose my beliefs or disrupt your way of life. I believe we can learn from each other and build a future together." The other Sentinels exchanged glances, a mixture of skepticism and curiosity flickering across their faces. Varric crossed his arms, contemplating Mark's words. "Your intentions may be noble, but how do we know you will not betray us when it matters most?" "I can't ask you to trust me outright," Mark replied, his voice earnest. "But I am committed to proving that unity can bring strength. I've seen what division does, and I want to ensure that doesn't happen between our worlds. I want to work alongside you, not against you." "Talk is easy," Varric countered, his tone unyielding. "Show us your loyalty through action. If you truly wish to prove yourself, then take part in the trials of the Sentinels." Mark's heart raced at the challenge. What do those trials entail? "They test not only physical strength, but also loyalty and understanding of our ways," Varric replied. "If you succeed, you may earn the respect of our faction. If you fail, you will have solidified our distrust." Mark glanced back at Zara and Drek, who were watching him intently. He felt a sense of determination surging within him. "I accept your challenge. When do these trials begin?" Varric's expression softened slightly, a hint of respect flickering in his eyes. "Tomorrow at dawn. Prepare yourself, for it will not be easy." As Mark stepped away from the group, he felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension. This was a pivotal moment, a chance to confront the lingering doubts and strengthen the bonds he had worked so hard to create. But as he returned to the celebration, he couldn't shake the feeling that the trials ahead would be more than just a test of strength. They would be a battle for the very soul of their alliance. Dawn broke over the horizon, casting a golden hue across the Orcs landscape. The air was cool and crisp, a contrast to the warmth that filled Mark's heart. He stood outside the Sentinels' training grounds, surrounded by towering trees and lush greenery. The tranquility of the morning was palpable, yet beneath it lay a current of tension as the Sentinels gathered to witness the trials. Varric stood at the forefront, flanked by his loyal warriors. Mark felt the weight of their scrutiny, their eyes boring into him with a mixture of skepticism and curiosity. Zara and Drek were positioned nearby, their expressions filled with concern and support. "Today, you will face 3 trials," Varric announced, his voice echoing through the clearing. "Each will test your strength, your resolve, and your commitment to our people. Failure to impress will only deepen our doubts. Are you ready?" Mark nodded, feeling the pulse of determination coursing through him. "I am ready." "The first trial is a test of strength," Varric declared. "You will face one of our strongest warriors in a duel. Show us your prowess and earn the respect of my people." The first challenger stepped forward, a burly warrior with muscles honed from years of training. As the duel commenced, Mark felt the adrenaline rush through his veins. The combat was fierce, each strike reverberating with the sound of clashing wills. Mark drew upon his training and instinct, weaving between blows and delivering counterattacks. The fight was intense, but he remembered Drek's words about adaptability, focusing on the strengths of his opponent while showcasing his own skills. With each exchange, he felt the crowd's energy shift, their skepticism beginning to wane. The duel ended in a draw, both warriors panting and weary, yet Mark felt a surge of accomplishment. He had held his own against one of the DRX's best, earning the respect of those who had doubted him. "Very well," Varric said, his tone begrudgingly impressed. "You have proven your strength. Now, for the second trial, a test of loyalty. You will navigate the Forest of Shadows, where you must retrieve a sacred artifact. This journey will test your resolve and your understanding of our culture. Return it to us, and we will see if you truly belong." Mark exchanged glances with Zara and Drek, who nodded with encouragement. He set off into the Forest of Shadows, its dense foliage cloaking him in darkness. The air grew thick with an aura of mystery, each step echoing the challenges that lay ahead. As he journeyed deeper, he encountered illusions designed to test his will. Shadows flickered and danced, taunting him with whispers of doubt and despair. Memories of his past failures surfaced, threatening to overwhelm him. But he pressed on, recalling the bonds he had forged with the DRX and the hope they represented. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, he found the sacred artifact, a small, intricately carved totem representing unity and strength. It radiated warmth, filling him with a sense of purpose. He grasped it tightly and began his journey back, navigating the illusions with newfound clarity. Upon returning to the clearing, he presented the artifact to Varric, breathless yet resolute. "I retrieved it," he declared, his voice steady. "This artifact represents our potential for unity, and I believe it can guide us forward." The crowd erupted in murmurs of admiration, and Mark felt a flicker of hope blossom within him. Varric regarded the artifact with contemplation, the tension in his eyes beginning to soften. "Impressive," Varric admitted, his voice begrudgingly respectful. "Now, for the final trial, a test of understanding. You must engage in a debate with the Sentinels about the future of our worlds. Show us your commitment to fostering understanding and cooperation." As Mark stepped forward, he felt the weight of the challenge ahead. This was not just a battle of words, it was a fight for the very future they sought to build together. With each exchange, he articulated his vision for unity, drawing upon his experiences and the lessons learned from both worlds. The debate was intense, filled with passionate voices and heated discussions. But Mark stood firm, advocating for collaboration and understanding. Finally, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the clearing, Varric stepped forward, his expression resolute. "You have faced our trials and emerged stronger for it. While your journey is far from over, you have proven your commitment to our cause. You are one of us, Mark." The crowd erupted into applause, their cheers ringing through the air as Mark felt the warmth of acceptance envelop him once more. Yet, deep within, he understood that this was only the beginning of a greater battle. As he stood alongside Drek, Zara, and the Sentinels, he realized the true test lay ahead, not just in facing challenges, but in navigating the complexities of unity itself. Together, they would forge a path toward a brighter future, one where trust and understanding prevailed over doubt and division. And as the stars twinkled overhead, Mark felt a renewed sense of hope, ready to embrace the journey that lay ahead. The rising storm. The dawn that followed the trials was unlike any Mark had ever seen. Sunlight filtered through the lush canopy of the forest of shadows, painting the ground in shades of gold and green. The air was thick with the scent of dew-kissed earth and blooming wildflowers. However, beneath the beauty of the morning lay an undercurrent of tension, as Mark sensed that the trials had only scratched the surface of the complexities he now faced. The acceptance he had fought for felt fragile, like a delicate flower growing in the cracks of a stone path. Varric had granted him a place among the Sentinels, but Mark knew there were deeper divisions within the DRX, and not everyone shared Varric's newfound respect. Whispers of dissent lingered in the air, remnants of an unease that refused to dissipate. As the day unfolded, Mark gathered with Drek and Zara at the heart of the DRX camp. The energy was electric, a blend of excitement and apprehension as warriors prepared for their next moves. Zara's fiery spirit was palpable, her eyes glinting with determination. "Today, we need to consolidate our gains," she said, her voice firm. "We've made progress with the Sentinels, but we can't ignore the factions that still oppose our alliance. We need to hold a council to address these concerns head-on." Mark nodded, feeling the weight of leadership resting upon his shoulders. "I'll speak to Varric and see if he can help us facilitate this council. We need to create a space for dialogue, one that encourages open communication rather than suspicion." As the sun reached its zenith, Mark approached Varric, who was training with other warriors. The rhythmic sounds of swords clashing and the grunts of exertion filled the air, a stark contrast to the uncertainty that lingered in Mark's heart. He waited for a lull in the activity before addressing Varric. "Varric, I'd like to propose a council meeting," Mark said, his tone respectful but resolute. "We need to address the concerns of those who remain skeptical about our alliance. Open dialogue is crucial if we want to maintain unity." Varric paused, wiping sweat from his brow. "You are wise to consider this, Mark. However, be prepared for resistance. The Sentinels may be open to you, but there are other factions within the DRX that will not share our perspective." "I understand," Mark replied, "but if we want to build something meaningful, we can't shy away from conflict. We must face it head-on." Varric considered Mark's words, his gaze unwavering. "Very well. I will support this council. But know this, respect is earned, and you may have to confront those who see you as a threat." As the sun began its descent, casting a warm glow over the camp, Mark and Zara began to organize the council. They gathered representatives from various factions, striving to include those who had remained skeptical of their alliance. Drek stood by Mark's side, providing encouragement and insight as they prepared for the discussions ahead. As dusk fell, the council gathered in a clearing surrounded by flickering torches, their light casting long shadows on the faces of the participants. The atmosphere was tense, charged with the weight of unspoken fears and concerns. Mark stood at the forefront, flanked by Zara and Drek, feeling the scrutiny of those gathered. "Welcome, everyone," Mark began, his voice steady yet earnest. "We are here to address the path forward for both our worlds. We face challenges together, and I believe that through open dialogue, we can strengthen our alliance and address the issues that divide us." A murmur rippled through the crowd as Mark scanned the faces before him. Many wore expressions of skepticism, their eyes narrowed in suspicion. Among them stood Varric, his demeanor composed yet watchful. "The outsider speaks," a voice called out from the back, laden with disdain. A tall warrior stepped forward, his features rugged and stern. "What do you know of our struggles? You come here, basking in our victories, while the real work lies beneath the surface." Mark took a deep breath, knowing he had to respond with humility and strength. "I may not understand all that you face, but I am committed to listening and learning. My presence here is not to overshadow your experiences, but to forge a path where we can work together." Words mean little when the heart is heavy with mistrust, another warrior interjected. "How can we trust a human when our traditions are built on honor and loyalty? You don't belong to this world." "I acknowledge that my origins are different," Mark replied, meeting their gazes with sincerity. "But I believe that by sharing our stories and listening to one another, we can create a bridge between our cultures. We have more in common than we realize." As Mark spoke, he saw small flickers of intrigue spark in some of the warriors' eyes. Drek stepped forward, his voice carrying the weight of his own experiences. "Trust takes time. We fought together and witnessed the strength of our unity. Let us share our struggles openly and work towards understanding rather than division." The crowd murmured again, some nodding in agreement while others remained skeptical. Varric, watching intently, raised a hand to silence the murmurs. "Let's allow Mark to speak. He has earned his place through the trials. Perhaps we can gain insight from his perspective." Encouraged by Varric's support, Mark continued, sharing his vision for unity. He spoke of the beauty he saw in the DRX's traditions, their resilience in the face of adversity, and the lessons he had learned from Drek and Zara. Slowly, the atmosphere began to shift, the weight of suspicion giving way to curiosity. However, just as hope began to blossom, a sudden roar erupted from the tree line, shattering the tense atmosphere. A group of shadowy figures emerged, their armor glinting in the torchlight, a band of rebels who had long opposed any alliance with humans. They surged into the clearing, their eyes filled with fury. "Enough of this charade," the leader shouted, his voice dripping with contempt. "You think you can unite us with words? We will not be swayed by an outsider's empty promises." The council erupted into chaos as warriors from both sides drew their weapons, tension crackling in the air. Mark felt his heart race, knowing that the fragile unity they had begun to build was now under threat. "Stand down," Varric commanded, stepping forward to confront the rebels. "You will not disrupt this council. We have fought too hard for peace to let anger consume us." But the rebel leader stepped closer, his face twisted in rage. "You would side with a human. You've lost your way, Varric. We are warriors, not collaborators. We will not let this outsider tarnish our legacy." Mark took a step forward, his hands raised in a gesture of peace. "Please listen to me. I understand your fears, but my intention is not to diminish your legacy. I want to help honor it by building a future where our worlds can coexist." Silence. The rebel leader spat, his voice reverberating through the clearing. "Your words are meaningless. We will not allow you to stain our traditions." Drek stepped forward, a fierce expression on his face. "You think your anger will save us? This is not the way forward. We need to find common ground, not burn our bridges." The rebels shifted uneasily, their anger clashing with a mounting tension. Mark felt the urgency to act. He turned to Varric and Zara, seeking their support. "If we want to change minds, we need to confront this head-on. Let's show them we are stronger together." With a firm resolve, Mark stepped closer to the rebel leader. "I challenge you to a duel," he declared, his voice steady. "If I can prove my commitment to this alliance through strength and honor, will you consider joining us? Or will you let your anger dictate our future?" The rebel leader's eyes narrowed, surprise flashing across his face. "A duel. You think you can prove your worth with a single fight?" Mark nodded. "It's a chance to demonstrate my resolve, to show you that I am not here to undermine you, but to fight alongside you. If I lose, I will leave, and you can carry on without me. But if I win, you must reconsider your stance." The clearing fell silent, the tension palpable. The rebel leader glanced at his comrades, weighing the stakes. After a moment he nodded, a smirk creeping across his face. "Very well. A duel it is. But know this, if you fall, you will take your alliance with you." Mark turned to Varric, whose expression was one of deep concern. "Are you sure about this?" "I have to try," Mark replied, determination surging within him. "This is the only way to show them that I'm serious." As the warriors cleared space for the duel, Mark prepared himself mentally, focusing on the challenge ahead. This was not just a fight for personal honor, but a battle for the very future of their alliance. The stakes had never been higher, and the weight of expectations pressed down on him. The rebel leader approached, his stance confident and menacing. "Prepare to be humbled, outsider. You will learn that we do not need you." Mark steadied himself, drawing upon the strength he had found during the trials. He took a deep breath, feeling the energy of those around him, sensing their hopes and fears intertwined with his own. The duel began, and with each movement, Mark felt the pressure of their gazes. He fought fiercely, his heart pounding as he parried and struck, trying to anticipate the rebels' every move. The clash of their weapons echoed through the clearing, a symphony of determination and defiance. As the fight wore on, Mark found himself pushed to his limits. The rebel leader was relentless, his anger fueling each strike. Yet, with every parry, Mark focused not just on the fight, but on the message he needed to convey. He wasn't just fighting for himself, he was fighting for unity, for understanding. With a sudden surge of adrenaline, Mark launched into a flurry of strikes, his body moving fluidly, almost instinctively. He had trained hard, honing his skills with Drek and Zara, and now it was time to showcase that dedication. In a decisive moment, Mark disarmed the rebel leader, his sword clattering to the ground. He stood over him, breathless and resolute. This is not about defeat or victory, it's about finding a way forward together. The clearing fell silent as everyone held their breath, the weight of the moment hanging in the air. The rebel leader, panting and defeated, looked up at Mark, the anger slowly fading from his eyes. He realized the truth in Mark's words, the potential for unity that lay ahead. As the crowd began to murmur, the rebel leader stood slowly, acceptance dawning on his face. "Perhaps we have been blinded by our own anger," he admitted, his voice low. "But change is never easy. If you can prove your loyalty, maybe there is hope for our worlds after all." Mark extended his hand, a gesture of reconciliation. "Together we can forge a future that honors both our legacies. Let's build something greater than ourselves." As their hands clasped, a ripple of hope spread through the gathering. The warriors began to cheer, a sound of unity rising above the tension that had once threatened to tear them apart. Mark's heart swelled as he realized that this moment marked the beginning of a new chapter, not just for himself, but for the entire alliance. In that clearing, under the light of the stars that began to twinkle overhead, Mark felt the strength of their resolve. They had faced adversity, and together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead. The storm may have risen, but they were ready to stand firm, united in their purpose, and determined to build a future where both worlds could thrive together.